Hey guys, thanks for coming, and today we're going to be starting off with Managing Oneself by P.F. Drucker. I've been thinking about the different ways that I can approach doing this channel, and I thought, you know what, it would be a bit fun to try reading out loud to the camera, so you guys can read along with me. And actually, I should probably get my see, because what I've done in the first 4 pages, what I'm going to restart from the first page is I've been underlining in pen some of the most important parts, because as Tal Lopez says, there are millions of books in the world, and what a lot of these books contain is 20% of the information that you actually want to get, and the 80% are generally things that you don't need to know, which aren't going to be of value to you in terms of progression. So give me a sec. Alright guys, I just stole my girl's special pen. Borrowed it. Just keep that between you and me though. Alright, for the sake of this. So we're going to be starting off from page 1. Managing Oneself. History's great achievers. Napoleon and Da Vinci and Mozart have always managed themselves. That, in large measure, is what makes them great achievers, but they are rare exceptions, so unusual, both in their own talents and their own accomplishments, as to be considered outside the boundaries of ordinary human existence. Now, most of us, even those of us with modest endowments, will have to learn to manage ourselves. We will have to learn to develop ourselves. We will have to place ourselves where we can make the greatest contribution, and we will have to stay mentally alert and engaged during 50-year working life, which means knowing how to and when to change the work we do. What are my strengths? Most people think they know what they're good at. They're usually wrong. More often, people know what they are not good at, and even then people are more wrong than right. And yet, a person can perform only from strength. One cannot build performance on weakness, let alone on something one cannot do at all. Throughout history, people had little need to know their strength. A person was born into a position of a line of work. The peasant's son would also be a peasant, the artisan's daughter an artisan's wife, and so on. But now people have choices. We need to know our strengths in order to know where we belong. The only way to discover your strength is through feedback analysis. Whenever you make a key decision or take a key action, write it down. What you expect will happen. 9 or 12 months later, compare the actual results with your expectations. I've been practicing this method for 15 to 20 years now, and every time I do it, I am surprised. The feedback analysis showed me, for instance, and to my great surprise, that I have an intuitive understanding of technical people, whether they're engineers or accountants or market researchers. It also showed me that I don't really resonate with generalists. Feedback analysis is by no means new. It was invented sometime in the 14th century by an otherwise totally obscure German theologian? I have to figure out what it is. And picked up quite independently. Some 150 years later, by John Calvin and Ignatius of Loyola, Oh my god, some of these names are crazy. Alright, each of whom incorporated it into the practice of his followers. In fact, the steadfast focus on performance and results that this habit produces explains why the institutions these two men founded, the Calvinist Church and the Jesuit order, came to dominate Europe within 30 years. Some of them words are a bit tongue twisting, man. Shows I need to read more. Fucking practice consistently. This simple method will show you, within a fairly short period of time, maybe 2 or 3 years, where your strengths lie. And this is the most important thing to know. The method will show you what you are doing or failing at doing that deprives you from the full benefit of your strengths. It will show you where you are not particularly competent. And finally, it will show you where you have no strengths and cannot perform. Several implications for actions follow from the feedback analysis area. How you doing, you right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
I'm going to change my clothes and
Alright. Put yourself where your strengths can produce results. Second, work on improving your strengths. Analysis will rapidly show where you need to improve skills or acquire new ones. It will also show the gap in your knowledge, and those can usually be filled. Mathematicians are born, but everyone can learn. Try trigonometry. Bloody, I'm going to have to run a few Google searching on just how to define these things. I'm also thinking maybe what we can do is for each section, under each subtitle, we can do a short recap, or just a brainstorm, or just a little small analysis, so we can identify, really gain clarity on what's being said here. So just referring to the first paragraph where it speaks about most people know, well, they think they know what they are good at. They are usually wrong. More often people know what they are not good at, and even then more people are wrong than right. And how one cannot build performance on weakness, let alone something one cannot do at all. And that is also a very valid point that Tal Lopez also pointed out in the 67 steps. So it's very key that in order to progress, we identify our strengths and our core values, because those are the things that we can only build upon. Strengths. And also spoke about how throughout the course of history people would be born into position in the line of work, and there was no selection, there was no options for them to choose from. You was born into a certain family that carried a certain legacy, and you would be expected to carry out that same legacy. There's no breaking away from that, so there is no individuality. But we live in an age where most people are, well, there are a lot of people who are becoming self-made. And these self-made people, they identify their own strengths and they build upon it. Because that's where we start off from, ourselves. I like to use an illustration like you're in a game, in an open world game, where you create your new character. Ooh, like RuneScape. I'm gonna get so bad for this. RuneScape, you start off with a character and you can build upon any skill that you have. It's sort of like that. You start off with nothing and you work your way up, you increase your levels, and the same applies to being alive here in the real world. You know, the more you grind, the more you acquire knowledge, the more you go through trial and error, is the better you become. And he talks about feedback analysis. And this is how we gained a lot of insight into his own strength personally. And this is something, a method that we should use ourselves, and this will be very helpful to us in the acquisition of what our true strength is. Gaining unbiased feedback from strangers, from other people, when we display our talents, skills, when we're being assessed. That's a good way for self-identification. I think that's a point that I'm currently at in my life right now, is really trying to establish and brew upon a greater understanding of myself and trying to figure out what is my true niche. What sort of service can I provide that will instill value into other people's lives that I'd love to replicate and do on a day-to-day basis? What can I really specialize in? Italo has also said, eliminating all of those thoughts that you may have revolving around you being able to do multiple things. There's very, very few people, like one in every 500 years, that one person can come along and he can specialize and be absolutely astounding within that top 5 percentile range. Hollywood quality of talents, having an array of talents. You need to choose one thing, you need to stick by it. You need to specialize and you need to become better and harness your skills and abilities within that thing. You need to master it. So yeah. So continuing on from where we was. Third, discover where your intellectual arrogance is causing disabling ignorance and overcome it. Far too many people, especially people with great expertise in one area, are contemptuous of knowledge in other areas, or believe that being bright is a substitute for knowledge. First-rate engineers, for instance, tend to take pride in not knowing anything about people. Human beings, they believe, are too much disorderly for the good engineering mind. Human resources professionals, by contrast, often pride themselves on their ignorance of elementary accounting or of quantitative methods altogether. But taking pride in such ignorance is self-defeating. Go to work on acquiring the skills and the knowledge you need to fully realize your strengths. It is equally essential to remedy your bad habits, the things you do or fail to do that inhibit your effectiveness and performance. Such habits will quickly show up in the feedback. For example, a planner may find that his beautiful plans fail because he does not follow through on them. Like so many brilliant people, he believes that ideas move mountains, that bulldozers move mountains. Ideas show where the bulldozers should go to work. This planner will have to learn that the work does not stop when the plan is completed. He must find people to carry out the plan and explain it to them. He must adapt and change it as he puts it into action. And finally, he must decide when to stop pushing the plan. At the same time, feedback will also reveal when the problem is a lack of manners. Manners are the lubricating oil of an organization. It is the law of nature that two moving bodies in contact with each other create friction. This is as true for human beings as it is for inanimate objects. Manners, simple things like saying please and thank you, and knowing a person's name or asking after her family, enable two people to work together whether they like it or not. Bright people, especially bright young people, often do understand this. If analysis shows that someone's bright and brilliant work fails again and again as soon as cooperation from others is required, it probably indicates a lack of courtesy. That is, a lack of manners. Comparing your expectations with your results also indicates what not to do. We all have a vast number of areas in which we have no talent or skill and little chance of becoming even mediocre. In those areas, a person, and especially a knowledge worker, should not take on work, jobs, and assignments. One should waste as little effort as possible on improving areas of low competence. It takes far more energy and work to improve from incompetence to mediocrity than it takes to improve from first-rate performance to excellence. So just touching upon that point there, because that is very relevant to today. A lot of us, we get like what Ty Lopez was speaking about, pop idol syndrome. We watch people on TV, we see how everybody's going up, how people are getting all the things that they want to get. And it seems almost instant to us because we don't see the journey. We don't see the progression route that they had to go through personally themselves to getting to where they want to get to. And we think we can just get up and instantly do it. Or that we can get up and we can become good at whatever it is. We need to identify our strengths. Because that's not the case. Some people think they can sing that, little do they know they can't sing. I thought I could sing. Fuck it. Nah, sing it ain't for me. I'm good at guitar. I love guitar. That I can do. I can draw. I can dance a bit, but I'll never take it up full time. Would never try doing it competitively at all. And it's just about trial and error. And Ty Lopez also said you can try and you can go through different processes, see what works out for you, but don't make the error of trying for too long. Know when to cut it short. And as it says here, some people have this idea within their heads that they can get whatever it is that they want. That's true to an extent. However, as it exclaims here, trying to become great is something that you have low competence in to begin with, or that you're not naturally inclined to do or to learn, is going to be a lot more time and resource consuming than something that you're naturally inclined at. So it's better to play to your advantages, play to your strengths, and work and develop upon it. Because that's an area that we're trying to gain separation from, mediocrity. If we want to become great, if we want to become impactful upon the world, then we need to become exceptional in whatever it is that we're doing. And the only way to do that is by identifying one, two, or very few amount of strengths and working upon them. We have limited time upon this earth, and time is finite. Time is the most valuable resource we have, and something that we have so little of. Once you lose time, that's it, it's gone. As Ty Lopez says it again, you know, he created a wicked illustration. It's like being on an escalator. You can stand on that escalator, and if you smart ass is going to think, oh, you can run down it. You stand on one part of the escalator, and the escalator is full in front of you and it's full behind you. There's no way you're getting down or up. And that's exactly what time is. You're stood there, and it's in complete control of you. There's no going back. So we need to be very mindful with where we're going to be investing in. So it's better to play your cards right and to your own advantage. And manners, brilliant when it touches upon it in this. Let me see if I can find a good quote. Manners are the lubricating oil of an organization. Let me just underline this. This is brilliant. It is a law of nature that two moving bodies in contact with each other create friction. At the same time, feedback will also reveal when the problem is a lack of manners. And this is another good reason so why it's great to get feedback analysis. So don't isolate yourself. Don't make the same errors that mediocre people in their specializations get complacent with. And that's feeling the need to socialize because humanity is in disarray. No, excuse me, got hiccups. Never think about yourself as being too great, because manners and social etiquette is a foundation, and you need that. You need that. No one man is an island. And as Ty Lopez says himself, every great person, every outstanding person has had a mentor. Everyone has had to work as someone else other than themselves at some point in order to get to where they want to get to. And, see, I was thinking maybe I could just do 10 pages per video. Let's keep it nice and short. Yeah, there's 60 pages in total of this book, so it should work out fine. I should be able to complete it by the end of next week. So I'll continue on. Let me just quickly underline this again. One should waste as little time and effort as possible on improving areas of low competence. It takes far more energy to work to improve from incompetence to mediocrity than it takes to improve from first-rate performance to excellence. And then it goes on to say, where we cut off, and yet most people, especially most teachers and most organizations, concentrate on making incompetent performance into mediocre ones. Energy, resources, and time should go instead to making a competent person into a star performer. How do I perform? This is the next subtitle. I'm just going to finish on this page. Amazingly, few people know how they get things done. Indeed, most of us do not even know that different people work and perform differently. Too many people work in ways that are not their ways. Too many people work in ways that are not their ways, and that almost guarantees non-performance. For knowledge workers, how do I perform? May be an even more important question than what are my strengths. Yeah, I don't think this is a good place to go off in. Energy, resources, and time. Alright. You just got to bear with me because I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to actually do these videos. I'm just winging it along, but action is the key thing here right now for me, because I don't have very much willpower for today. Yeah. Anyway, so I think right now I'll just recap over what we've gone over. So some of the things I've underlined. Most people think they know what they're good at. They're usually wrong. And one cannot build performance on weakness, let alone on something one cannot do at all. Whenever you make a key decision or take a key action, write down what you expect to happen 9 or 12 months later. Compare the actual results with your expectations. That's not a good one. Oh my, underlining is terrible. this is good. Another good one. For example, a planner may find that his beautiful plans fail because he does not follow through on them. Let me just underline this while I'm going through it. Because he does not follow through on them. Like so many brilliant people, he believes that the ideas move mountains, but bulldozers move mountains. Ideas show where the bulldozers where to go to work. Feedback will also reveal when the problem is a lack of manners. Manners are the lubricating oil of the organization. It is a law of nature that two moving bodies in contact with each other create friction. One should waste as little effort as possible on improving areas of low competence. It takes far more energy and work to improve from incompetence to mediocrity than it takes to improve from a first-rate performance to excellence. Energy, resources and time should go instead to making a competent person into a star performer. I don't even need to elaborate onto those points anymore. You've got the picture of this the first 10 pages of managing oneself. Key point is we've got to learn how to identify where it is that we should be investing all of our efforts, energy and time into, where we should be making the key investments, and that's within our strength. Identifying yourself, identifying that the strength is key, and learning to be humble within the pursuit of acquiring brilliance and not becoming complacent, not becoming arrogant, because arrogance only hinders your ability to grow and develop, because we also rely upon the feedback of others. It's brilliant. And what I'm going to do with these quotes that I've underlined, I'm just going to add them to the Facebook page. Hopefully it's going haywire again. And yeah, you can either read them now, you can note them down for yourself, it's always good. And when I go back through this book in the future, just remind myself of the key points. There we go, it'll be like I'm reading a book. Well, that's going to help me speed read. So I'm cutting out the essential points that I need to know. As Tyler Lopez says for himself, a book a day doesn't necessarily mean going through the whole entity of the book. It means getting out the key points that he needs to learn from. Well, thank you very much, and I'm going to be continuing on with the next 10 pages tomorrow, and I'll record that and upload it, and I'll also write down the quotes as well, so stay tuned. And if you've got any thoughts and ideas, then feel free to drop a comment, message me, get at me however, and yeah, that'll be great. I'd appreciate that, because I'm just sort of winging this along, and I know it could be a hell of a lot more organised. Thank you very much.